Well, good morning. It's nice to be here. To be fair, I want to say thank you to Melanie and the Soul Cycle team, in addition to everybody who put this conference on and had enough faith in me to be here, because, quite frankly, I was going to start this morning because I knew I was going early, that I needed to get the blood flowing, not just for myself, but for you. I was going to start with a big dance and, really get out there and do something impromptu. But to be honest with you, for those of you who know me, you know that my dance moves, they're full of conflict. The change that happens in my body, yeah, you don't want to see it. So Melanie and the team of Soul Cycle, thank you for sparing everyone. All right. Well, let's begin then with an idea. If there's no conflict around you, it's being kept from you. John Armstrong told me that in preparation for today. Pretty smart guy. Thanks. In order to really dig into that notion, let's establish a little baseline. If I said that restaurants are living organisms, that they take on a life of their own, could you all agree? Okay. Can we all agree that evolution is a requirement for sustaining life? Yeah. And then if I said that evolution is a struggle, would you agree? And finally, can we all agree that we as humans tend to avoid struggle at all cost because it's just downright uncomfortable? Okay. I've served food and drink for more than 2 decades, the past 6.5 of which have been as the custodian of Union Square Cafe. I came to the restaurant in 2011 and was charged with a mission. With just a few years left on the lease, the restaurant stood on the precipice of change. I was brought on board to bring about an evolution, make decisions, take risks, and ultimately celebrate 30 years of existence by figuring out what to do or not to do for the next 30. A seemingly noble endeavor. I thought, hey, this is kind of an amazing opportunity, right? Well, not so fast, Sam. Upon further reflection, you might say I'd been charged with an impossible task. I was anointed agent of change, the thing we humans work so desperately hard to resist. And thus, depending on which employee you might talk to or which guest in the dining room on a particular day, I was evil incarnate. The journey from here to there has led me to my goal today, to get you comfortable with discomfort. Through my experiences marshaling change with staff, guests, and, yes, Will, ultimately Danny Meyer, I've experienced a ton of conflict. And at first, this was really awkward and unsettling. But then, slowly, through great folly, light bulb moment, an epiphany. Seek out and embrace the tension. Utilize perspective and ultimately win the game. It was early on in my tenure as general manager at Union Square Cafe when I got a little taste of this. Union Square Cafe on 16th Street was known for many things, not the least of which was its iconic bar, made of mahogany and recently refinished when I got there with a brand new shiny coat of varnish. Busy day in and day out, we had a serious problem. The surface at the bar was eroding. All the acid from wine and citrus that would spill was causing the varnish to peel. Something needed to change. Save the bar top! It was on a big... I threw that in there just for you. It was a bustling Thursday lunch when I decided to make my move. I was watching carefully as the service bartender was busy putting up drinks on the eroding bar top, sliding each drink one after the last with plenty of speed, simultaneously talking to a full bar full of guests. I thought to myself, this will not stand. And I said, I've got it. I ran out of the bar, ran out of the restaurant. Right up the street was a restaurant supply store, ran inside, slapped a 20 down on the bar, said, keep the change. I came back to the bar with this, a bar mat. A bar mat. Perfect, right? What friction could there be from this tiny, insignificant little change? So this is the good part. The bartender looks at me. How do I slide my drinks, Sam? Well, you don't. You have to pick them up and move them. Well, how does the mat get clean, Sam? You run it through the dishwasher. Well, who's going to make sure it comes out on the backside and gets back to us at the bar? On and on she went. Her face was writhing with disdain, anger, and embarrassment in front of all her regular customers. In that moment, in my haste, I was like a bull in a china shop. Acting on pure instinct, I was a savior in my own mind. I actually made things worse by not acting with tact. I was oblivious to the fact that I was trampling not just on my bartender's turf, but on her values as well. Don't tell me how to do my job, and certainly not in front of my guests. I was so focused on the solutions that I lacked the clarity and presence of mind to see how an action might be received. And here's the thing. I wasn't wrong. I actually won. I protected our iconic bar, which as a result sits beautifully on the balcony level of our new home on 19th Street. But my staff won as well. They taught me about how to go about enacting change. You see, conflict doesn't have to lead to defensiveness when you embrace it properly. The learning about how to affect change was golden. Perspective on inevitable strife effectively birthed my idea. Now, it has recently been said that other restaurants have customers. Union Square Cafe has fans. Damn it, we know that. To be essential is to be a part of someone's lives. We would and do go to great lengths for all our people. And as time went on, we continued to look for ways to evolve, innovate, and update. USC was always a busy restaurant and popular, but was it really relevant? Behold, the martini glass. Classic, elegant, timeless. Or is this? It's kind of clunky, oversized. You might even say it's dated. Well, for about $4.25, I can fix that. No more sloshing drinks, no more stodgy, thick-rimmed monstrosity. I was a genius. Actually, I was once again horribly wrong. Two of our faithful fans made a habit of dining every Friday afternoon at 1 p.m. They began their lunch with dry Gibsons up, extra onions on the side. One fateful day, I sought validation in my change, and I personally marched the lovingly executed Gibsons in their brand new vessels proudly over to these guests and set them down with a smile. What the hell is that, Sam? Well, it's your Gibson. Man, it's your beverage. I'm talking about that lame, miniature, old-fashioned champagne coupe. Where do you think we are? In Brooklyn, Sam? Hey, we don't dine in Brooklyn, Sam. Chastised, beaten down, and actually downright scared, I knew once again I'd fucked up. My desires to bring about change and new once again overreached my ability to anticipate reaction. I knew I was right, but I had not thought through the inevitable conflict with our guests in order to evolve. Because let's face it, even Cheers eventually closed. Too afraid to push the envelope or my agenda, I went back to the old glass immediately and for a while. During the time USC was under construction and closed in 2016, I knew we had to evolve. But how could I do so and bring the past along with us? That faithful Friday 1 p.m. table 49 guest? Well, I walked them over to Maialino, our sister restaurant, a few weeks before we closed. Introduced them to the lunch manager at Maialino, had them pick out their table, and eventually set up their standing reservation. And you know what? I brought a couple of these with me, just to be sure, so Maialino would have the right glass for these guests. They continued to enjoy their proper lunches, and guess what? They're back dining with us at our new home on 19th Street every single day. Every single Friday. And you know what else? We both won. We use the sleek, new, sexy martini glass, but we also keep a few of the old faithful around for when the time calls. Whoever wrote the rule, you can't have both. You see, had I just thought about these ideas ahead of time, removed any sense of ego, and embraced the friction, I would actually not get people to take bad medicine, shove it down their throats, but I would actually create a reality in which they voluntarily opened up and said, bring it on. Compromise. There's a solution to every problem. It may not always be the solution you sought in the first place, but if it gets you to your goal, then it's golden. For in this business, it's simple. Every choice you make either burnishes a relationship or helps erode it. That brings me to one final example, a royal clash with the man himself, Danny Meyer. So, Danny and I have worked together for 13 years now, as Will mentioned, and we've spent countless hours in service working a room together. We've enjoyed hundreds of meals with one another, even traveled through Europe seeking inspiration for USC. Suffice it to say, we're pretty comfortable with one another. But that said, it's Danny Meyer. He's kind of a big deal. To be honest, and to level with you guys, for the first 6 years of our relationship, whenever he would talk to me, all I could ever do was mutter one of two words, awesome, or perfect. That's true. So, as our lease was winding down, truly winding down on 16th Street, we were faced with the ultimate decision. Do we close the restaurant or do we move it? No big deal, right? His first restaurant, his baby, perhaps the most personal reflection of self in a restaurant. I really took my time with this one. Thought it through from what I sought to be every angle, every possible response, every decision calculated. And once I arrived at what I thought was the best solution, I also chose my words really carefully. Danny, man, we should close this place. Let's go out with a bang. Let's go out on top, on our terms. It's seriously risky to uproot. And hey, in case you haven't noticed, there's a pretty poor track record of moving iconic brands around the country. More than a continued evolution, it would have to be a complete rebirth. And at the time we closed down 16th Street, 2015, Danny Meyer was 57 years old. Last time I checked, nobody should be giving birth at 57. He's not here today, so I can say this. Danny thought about it for about 10 seconds, and he said, hey, no, Sam, you're wrong. Let's do it. Let's move USC. It's our heart. It is our soul. It's our mother yeast. It was time to birth a 30-year startup. Re-engaged, refocused on every aspect of the build-outs and on every detail in service and hospitality, Danny was more present than he has been in years. He and our restaurants were reborn. It was the beginning of our next beautiful chapter. I could not have been more proud to be more wrong. Unafraid of the potential for conflict, I knew change was required. I embraced that moment, opened my mind, and as a result, Union Square Cafe is back. And hey, a happy consequence to our decision to move was enough space, raw physical space, to realize a personal dream that had been simmering just below the surface for years. Daily provisions, the coffee turned ice cream turned sandwich shop and rotisserie, that all-day hang brought us all those crullers this morning. I'm pretty okay with that. Thank you very much.